dealing with pain. It seems that many times in the Bible we see pain, we see suffering. More than anybody else, it seems that Jesus suffered pain and suffering. Not just his crucifixion or walking through the deserts for 40 days and 40 nights. He experiences all kinds of suffering. The betrayal from two of his disciples, Judas and Peter, the lack of belief in him, and those that mocked him when he said he is the Son of God. Thinking back to his mother Mary, the suffering that she experienced with Joseph. He searched the streets for hours, perhaps days, looking for somewhere to live, to give birth to a man who would change the world forever. These golden threads of knowledge seem to somehow portray an awful lot of pain and misery. It's easy to understand why many Christians can become depressed, sad. Of course, pain has many different levels. Perhaps on a scale from 1 to 10, we could say that 1 may be a simple paper cut. 10 may be the death of a loved one, or the loss of a family member. I wonder what level of pain we will read about today in today's scriptures. Genesis chapter 5. Adam's descendants to Noah. This is the book of the generations of Adam, when God created man. He made him in the likeness of God. Male and female he created them. And he blessed them and named them man when they were created. When Adam had lived 130 years, he fathered a son in his own likeness, after his image, and named him Seth. The days of Adam after he fathered Seth were 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. When Seth had lived 105 years, he fathered Enosh. Seth lived after he fathered Enosh 807 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. When Enosh had lived 90 years, he fathered Kenan. Enosh lived after he fathered Kenan 815 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he died. When Kenan had lived 70 years, he fathered Mahalalel. Kenan lived after he fathered Mahalalel 840 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Kenan were 910 years, and he died. When Mahalalel had lived 65 years, he fathered Jared. Mahalalel lived after he fathered Jared 830 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. When Jared had lived 162 years, he fathered Enoch. Jared lived after he fathered Enoch 800 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he fathered Methuselah. Enoch walked with God, and he fathered Methuselah 300 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. When Methuselah had lived 187 years, he fathered Lamech. Methuselah lived, after he fathered Lamech, 782 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. When Lamech had lived 182 years, he fathered a son. He called his name Noah, saying, "Out of the ground that the Lord had cursed, this one shall bring us relief from our work and from the painful toils of our hands." Lamech lived, after he fathered Noah, 595 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. After Noah was 500 years old, Noah fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now that scripture mentions death. It says, "And he died," 8 times in one passage. Our next passage is chapter 6, increasing corruption on earth. When man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God, that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, "I will blot out man, whom I have created from the face of the land, man and animals and creeping things, and birds of the heavens, for I am sorry that I have made them." But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. And Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted the way on earth. And God said to Noah, "I have determined to make an end of all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you are to make it. The length of the ark is 300 cubits, its breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. Make a roof for the ark, and finish it to a cubit above, and set the door of the ark in its side. make it with lower second and third decks. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, in which is the breadth of life under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you, and of every living thing of all flesh. You shall bring 2 of every sort into the ark to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female, of the birds according to their kinds, and of the animals according to their kinds, of every creeping thing of the ground, according to its kind. 2 of every sort shall come into you to keep them alive. Also take with you every sort of food that is eaten, and store it up. It shall serve as food for you and for them. Noah did this, he did all that God commanded him. It feels somehow hard to accept that yet another passage talks of this great pain and this great suffering. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth. So the Lord said, I will blot out man and whom I have created from the face of the land. Later on in the passage it says, everything that is on the earth shall die. It sounds like God is also in pain. So much so, he's going to destroy every person on the earth and the earth with it. God is in so much pain seeing this turmoil, this corruption. Surely if we are made in his image, then this only proves that it's okay to be angry. Although Noah was about to save himself and the animals and his family, he was also about to lose the whole earth. Friends, people that he perhaps met, were about to exist no longer. That must have been a pain factor of at least 10. Have you ever been angry at God for giving you so much pain? I know I have. I can't imagine Noah being too happy either when he was sailing around with a boat full of animals, thinking to himself, well, there's only us. God's killed everybody else, so yeah, I'm pretty angry at that. Pain factor, yeah, definitely 10. Let's move forward to chapter 23, Luke. Jesus before Pilate. Then the whole company of them arose and brought him before Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, we found this man misleading our nation, and forbidding us to give tribute to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king. And Pilate asked him, are you the king of the Jews? And he answered him, you have said so. Then Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, I find no guilt in this man, but they were urgent, saying, he stirs up the people, teaching throughout all Judah, from Galilee, even to this place. When Pilate heard this, he asked whether the man was a Galilean. And when he learned that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him over to Herod. He was himself in Jerusalem at the time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was very glad, for he had long desired to see him, because he had heard about him, and he was hoping to see some sign done by him. So he questioned him at some length. But he made no answer. The chief priests and the scribes stood by, vehemently accusing him. And Herod was with his soldiers. He treated him with contempt and mocked him. Then, arraying him in splendid clothing, he sent him back to Pilate. And Herod and Pilate became friends with each other that very day, for before this they had been an enmity with each other. Pilate then called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people, and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who was misleading the people, and after examining him before you, behold, I did not find this man guilty of any of your charges against him. Neither did Herod, for he sent him back to us. Look, nothing deserving death has been done by him. I will therefore punish him and then release him." But they all cried out together, "Away with this man, and release to us Barabbas, a man who had been thrown into prison for an insurrection started in the city and for murder." Pilate addressed them once more, desiring to release Jesus, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him." A third time he said to them, "Why, what evil has he done? I have found in him no guilt deserving death. I will therefore punish and release him." But they were urgent, demanding with loud cries that he should be crucified, and their voices prevailed. So Pilate decided that their demands should be granted. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, for whom they asked, but he delivered Jesus over to their will. And as they laid him away, they seized one Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, and laid on him the cross to carry it behind Jesus. And there followed him a great multitude of the people and of women who were mourning and lamenting for him. But turning to them, Jesus said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming when they will say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For if they do these things when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" 2 others, who were criminals, were led away to be put to death with him. And when they came to the place that is called the Skull, they were crucified. And the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. And Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And they cast lots to divide his garments, and the people stood by, watching. But the rulers scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Christ of God, his chosen one." The soldiers mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, or some scriptures say vinegar, and saying, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "Here is the King of the Jews." one of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation. And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." And he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And he said to him, "Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." It was now about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour, when the sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus called out with a loud voice, saying, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And having said that, he breathed his last. Now when the centurion saw what had taken place, he praised God, saying, "Certainly this man was innocent." And all the crowds that had assembled for this spectacle, when they saw what had taken place, returned to their homes, beating their breasts. And all his acquaintances and the women who had followed him from Galilee stood at a distance watching these things. Now there was a man named Joseph from the Jewish town of Arimathea. He was a member of the council, a good and righteous man, who had not consented to their decision and action, and he was looking for the kingdom of God. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then he took it down and wrapped it up in a linen shroud and laid him in a tomb cut in stone, where no one had ever been laid. It was the day of preparation, and the Sabbath was beginning. The women who had come with him from Galilee followed and saw the tomb and how his body was laid. Then they returned and prepared spices and ointments. On the Sabbath day they rested, according to the commandment. It's difficult to say, "This is the word of the Lord, thanks be to God," when we hear of such pain and misery. These people that killed Jesus were cruel. Heartless. Nasty. They stood there and mocked him as they impaled him and put him on the cross. Pain factor 10 for his mother who watched his son being crucified. Pain factor 10 for Jesus as the nails went into his hands. It's evident that from these scriptures alone that the Bible is no fairy tale. It would be easy to offer a theological viewpoint at this point and state that, well, the Bible has so many other beautiful things in it. It would be easy to offer a reasoning of why it may be healthy to have an agnostic viewpoint at times. Thing is, nobody said it was easy being a Christian.